Welcome to BGP. Today we are discussing long suffering. How long can you suffer just to say I do? And this topic was created based on a recent interview that took place on Dear Future Wifey with this couple called the Steeles, Mr. and Mrs. Steeles. They pastor in Arizona, and they have like a 10,000 member congregation. Um, People love what they stand for, what they preach about. But on this lovely day, they decided to talk about how they met and fell in love, right? Um, the husband, Mr. Steele, stated that he kind of was out there. He liked to
He was a
dip and
hoe.
dab, and yeah, a hoe. Um, and he had a preference, slim, petite, long hair, Latina, he was in a relationship with one woman, and you know, while he was in a relationship with her, his mother, I guess, was looking for his wife, and the mother said, she introduced, well, she told the future wife that she had a son that she felt like he would be perfect for her or whatnot. But she was still in school. They never met. She didn't do the number, whatever. Fast forward to later, let's say less than like 6 months later, someone else was talking about the son because she mentioned his name, and she was like, "Wait a minute, wait, who?" And the person said, "Yeah, so and so. He's single now." And she was like, "Oh, well, give me his number." And the person she's getting a number from is his ex, and she's like, "Psh, you could take him off my hands. Like, here you go, you know." So she was like, "I got him. This is good in the bag. I know I look better than her, because I'm, brown skin, pretty, plump, chunky, good woman. I got a job. I know how to cook. I know how to clean. And she's in high school, mind you, with this mentality. She like, I'm gonna get him, because he played for the football team in high school and all that good stuff. And yeah, the first time he met her, you know, he came to the door when he saw her. He said, "Oh no, that's my wife. Oh no," you know. Um, but they came together, and he told her up front, like, "You're not my preference. You don't know your worth. You don't know your value. I'm used to smaller women, like a buck 25, preferably Latina, you know." And she's like, "Well, I'm almost $2, you know,
Mm.
meaning 200 pounds, and she's brown skinned and she's short, right?" Um, but they got together, got pregnant. They went to college or whatnot, and mind you, before that he did not want any children. He told her he wanted her to have an abortion, but when she got pregnant he was like, "By who?" um,
Mm. Sure did.
but they worked it out, and fast forward to after that of college, they stayed together, got married, a few years later, after by the time the second child came. And he said, I'm not happy. I just feel like I didn't get to like have fun. And so he started having fun in the marriage.
Mm.
But the ladies of the church told her, just pray for him. All you gotta do is pray for him. Pray for your husband, pray for your house, and your marriage will be fine. Because in a lot of black churches, it's encouraged for wives to, you know, be able to handle long suffering. And so my first question, based on that brief synopsis, is how long will you suffer just to say I do, Adrian?
I think if it was asked some time back, it may be a little bit longer. But now that one of the things you mentioned is knowing your worth and knowing what, having better self esteem and better expectations and all these type of things. I'm not waiting for no dude. Mm-mm. not at all. I mean, when you're younger, much like she was straight out of high school, you do tend to deal with stuff that you would normally not deal with, especially in her case where she was a little chunky and maybe she wasn't getting the attention that she felt she needed to get. And so here's somebody that's showing her attention. And like you said, sometimes when you're in church, you get encouraged to stick by your man, regardless of how he is, a hoe, whatever he's doing. And I don't think I could do it. Mm-hmm.
Mona, how long you willing to
What
suffer?
did she? How did she suffer?
Well, according to her, he liked to cheat. That's having fun. He wanted to cheat. He wanted to be with other women. So it wasn't pleasant for her. She wasn't happy. But she was married. And the women of the church said, all you got to do is pray for him and, put some oil on him. And, you're going to be all right. So how long you willing to?
Okay, let's go back. When they first met, they were 17 or 18, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Did he not tell her that he was a player?
Yes.
Did he not tell her that, she was a starter, but he had other people on the bench?
He did.
So she said, okay, right?
Yeah.
So here's my thing. We as women always say, keep it real, keep it 100. Tell me what it is, and then I can, decide to agree upon it or not. So once he told her that, she said, okay. So they tried to make it look like this was some godly intervention or something. They was both in the world. When you do worldly things, you get worldly results.
True.
Okay. So he told her what it was, and that didn't have nothing to do with God. God don't bless no messes, and the old folks tell you be careful what you ask for because you might just get it. So
True.
For me, if I was her age, first of all, I wasn't having sex at 16, 17, 18, or 19. You see what I'm saying? Because she had her first child at 17. So they was having sex at 16. I was scared of my daddy. I had uncles and grandfathers. They told you to keep your legs closed. They talked about virginity. Now, she said she was Catholic and she converted to him and they was Christians or whatever. So, hey, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. But here's the thing. It was so much backlash from it. Well, we act like when you was young, dumb, and full of cum, you didn't do the same things that she did. You didn't experience the same things she did. And I think the reason why there was a lot of outrage is because somebody been through that. Somebody is going through that right now. So when they came on, it triggered them. And they had, secondhand trauma or something? So no, I couldn't have did it. All my boyfriends left me because I wasn't putting out for nothing. And I'm just going to keep it 100. You can kiss me, we can bump and grind. But no hickeys. You can't get my claws off. I was terrified of my father, so.
Okay. That's fair. I mean, because you're speaking on before they got married. So I'm speaking after they got married.
See, that's what I was thinking.
How long would you be able to deal with that long suffering of him saying, I want to continue to have fun. I want to continue to go out there and have my, side pieces.
Well, let me put it like this. She didn't already had 2 babies.
Yes.
Oh, let's go back. She was digmatized. Let's go on and say that. She was digmatized. She already had 2 babies. She was trying to make this stuff work. She didn't want to be a single mother. So they didn't even know each other for a long time. And it takes a minute for you to know your mate. She knew he was a cheater, so if I knew he was a cheater and I accepted that, if I seen some progress, let's say he was going out every night. Then next week he started going out every other night. Then he started going out once a week. I'm married to this man right now. I got 2 babies by this man right now. I'm going to have to deal with some stuff. How long? I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe she was under the impression that it would stop after the marriage.
She did say that.
Well, she did. Yeah. She did say that.
So that's what I'm thinking, because here he is still having all this risky behavior, and now they're married. She's thinking, okay, they're in a different covenant. They're like in it's a different set of rules now because he's married, that maybe he's gonna behave different.
And she did say that. She said that. She thought if he gave her a title that he would stop.
Yes.
And if she became Mrs. Steele, that he would stop. And he didn't.
He said,
exactly.
I hate you. I regret being married to you. I wish I wouldn't have never married you. I want out of this marriage.
I'm going to keep on smoking. I'm going to keep on drinking. I'm going to keep on chasing these women.
And I'm not going to church, and I'm going to keep doing these women. How long are you dealing with that?
It depends on I think it depends on the individual and what you're trying to get. Like I said, and then by that time they had 3 babies.
Yeah, they got all these kids.
So who want her?
And he probably told her that.
He probably did.
It's possible. It's
he
possible.
Probably told her that.
Her response was, God appointed me to have grace. God told me that I'm supposed to issue grace. This is not for everybody. This is just for me. So, yes, I'm going to pack his clothes and iron his clothes, cook his food, and send him on his way so he can go do his thing with the other women. Because I'm anointed with grace. And that's, because that's, as a, mother of the church, that is what you are supposed to do in your marriage. Long suffering. And I keep saying long suffering because I know a lot of women, especially in the churches that I came from or whatnot, always preach long suffering. You are supposed to be able to withstand long suffering in a marriage. So,
and then I guess they forget that I can't quote the scripture, but God is not an author of confusion. Much like Mona said, and I think that's just a saying. I don't know that it's a scripture. God don't bless no mess. He's not a part of that. You know what I mean? I think at some point, people get in your head, and especially when they throw religion up when it is convenient for them for them to use it to justify their exactly manipulate. So I definitely understand, because it does happen where before you know it, you believe in this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to stay here and take this because this is my husband.
This is my duty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, grace just means that you have humility and favor. I for sure would not have. There would have been two things closed. The ice box and this box right here would have been closed because she said that she was jumping on cars. She was yielding knives. She was trying to beat up the other girls.
Bleaching
and stuff.
Clothes.
I would put his toothbrush in the toilet. I wouldn't have did none of that. I would have not approached any other women. I would have dealt with him. He would have been like, "What's for dinner?" I'd have been like, "Whatever you cooking. What's going on with that booty? What that booty do? Complain." I would have been non-compliant because you broke the vows, and so now I'm going to break the vows. I'm not going to break them via cheating, but I'm not going to be your wife and do wifely duties. So it ain't going to be no long suffering. He probably going to leave my ass because I'm going to make the environment so miserable that he's going to get right or get left.
Okay.
Right.
But I think this was their personal story.
Their journey.
And
Yeah, they've been married for 30 years. And I always say, because when I was naive and much, much younger, I used to have this special feeling when I would hear married couples speak on, we've been married for 25 years, 30 years, 50 years, 60 years, 70 years. And I used to be like, oh my God, that's a beautiful thing. But as I've gotten older and experienced life, I now ask the question, well, how many years in that marriage was it good?
Exactly.
How many years in the marriage was it good? Because for a lot of people that I've spoken to that are married, they're miserable. And they say it really is like a prison sentence where they just be like, I'm just doing a countdown. I'm just doing a countdown, until I get my freedom. And I'd be like, is it that bad? And for some, they'd be like, psh. Some will say they stay married until the kids grow up and get out the house. Some will stay married until somebody die and then say they'll never do it again. Some will say they just have an understanding where they say, for all intents premises, we're married, but we see other people. Um, some would just say, "Look, I wear a ring, but it don't mean nothing." And then, as we've seen as of late, we hear some married women say, "I'm a married single mom." Um, it's there's a lot of talk that, in my opinion, as a single woman, that kind of makes me look at marriage like,
Mhm.
am I really supposed to do this? Or, because I mean, technically, to believers, we're told that you have to be anointed or not anointed. You have to be, um, this has to be something that you're called to. Marriage is a calling.
Mm.
It's not just, and I'm not talking about worldly people, but to believers, marriage is a calling. Like, you have to have a calling to be married and be able to commit to someone else and come together as one, and then at the same time do your duties where you're serving God and preaching the gospel, as well as, you know, being with one another while doing it. And so for a lot of people, marriage people, they don't see it that way. It's just, I got this person pregnant, so I had to do the right thing. Or I'm old now, so I'm like, why not? It's time. Or my friends are doing it, so I'm like, okay. As everybody keeps saying, when you gonna do it? When you gonna get married? You get married, Or I'm just tired of, sleeping with so many people. So, why not? And so it's, when I hear stories, especially from believers that speak on their story, their journey of to marriage, I'm like, I don't know if I could deal with that. And this isn't the first couple. This is like now couple number 2 on that show that speak of, yeah, I didn't really like her.
Mm.
I wasn't attracted to her. She not my type. She not my preference. I just, I just, some eventually you just grow into, you marry your purpose and not your preference.
Right.
But then they cheat on it with their preference. They cheat. And so it makes you question again, how much can you handle? How much are you willing to suffer in silence for the sake of saying, I got a ring, because I know a lot of married women that like to do that. I got a ring, or I'm married. You single. Because that's something she said. Like, that's why so many of y'all women out there are single, because, y'all don't know how to issue grace. Y'all don't know how to deal with what I deal with. I got a husband of 30 years. So.
Miserable.
I think in the Bible it says that God will prefer you to remain single and serve Him.
Correct.
However, if you are going to be tempted by the flesh, then you should get married. It should be one person for one person. The Bible also says that a man is supposed to love his woman like Jesus
That
loves
is correct.
the church.
That is correct.
So he didn't do any of that. His father was a
pastor.
His grandfather was a deacon. And his father actually told him that he was cursed with infidelity. He was cursed with being a cheater. He said he went into a gambling shack one night with somebody that wasn't her. And somebody said, hey, your daddy used to come here.
And your grandpa.
Lord.
And then some other man said, hey, is your granddaddy whoop-de-whoop? Because he used to be in here.
Yep.
So I think marriage is something that's very serious. And two people have to want it. As far as preference is concerned, let's not play like we didn't meet a person and we didn't really feel that person. That person wasn't really our type, and that person grew on us. I think the majority of people have met somebody like that. He not tall enough. He not skinny enough, but he got good conversation. And that's kind of basically how they met. He said they talked for 8 hours. He was wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. He didn't have time to talk. So he said he sat with her and talked with her for 8 hours. And she said he kissed her on her forehead when he left. And here's the thing, too. He's dyslexic. He has ADHD.
Oh,
So,
Yeah.
having an 8-hour conversation was kind of special with somebody that attention deficit. He actually could sit and talk to her. So,
I mean, I would too if she gonna give me money and give me food.
Well, that wasn't that was the first date. That wasn't that later on. I really didn't have a problem with the situation because that's what she chose. She wasn't in the dark. He did not manipulate her. He did not lie. And he said sometime he came back home and said he had a hiccup, you know, because she said long as she knew that she was okay with it.
Yeah.
So Latera said, so he could tell you, hey, I'm going out with Adrian tonight, and you would accept that. And she was like, nah, I didn't want to know about it, but she was willing to play that role.
A lot of people
See,
do.
but I feel like that's where I feel like it's a little bit of confusing because she, in one breath, she was saying she was willing to deal with that because she saw her mom go through a divorce, and so she would be for infidelity, and so she was like, I will never end a marriage for infidelity, right? So in one mouth you're saying that you're not going to do that, but in your other mouth you're sitting there saying it was getting to you, you was going to the mothers of the church, you was praying about it and asking God to stop him from cheating and to bring him back home. So which one is it? Are you okay with him going out there to cheat? Or do you want your husband to be a loyal husband?
And I'm agree with you there because she said she got pregnant. They mutually agreed to have an abortion.
Right.
So, and then once she got pregnant, he said by who? Because she had been gone for 4 weeks. So
which means he was already dipping with somebody
else. She was dipping in Richmond, Virginia, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But she said that her parents kicked her out. But then I listened to another podcast they were on, and she said she was 8 or 9 years old when her mother and father got divorced. And daddy was whispering in her ear, I really don't want to leave. I really don't want to leave. And children, that kind of pulls on their heartstrings. They don't care if it's a dysfunctional relationship or not. They want mom and daddy to stay together. So that's when she made that little vow that she would stay at 8 or 9 years old, not understanding everything that's going to come with it. You know, like I say, you think you can handle some stuff until it's right there in your face, you know.
I think we all should have a deal breaker, something that just says, I'm absolutely not dealing with this. And I think because, like you said, once kids are involved, once this, you're in this marriage, the church is watching, you don't want to, people going to say something, you don't exercise that because it's always there.
Yeah.
Some people have it with cheating, some people have it with abuse, whatever the case may be. We need to get firm with whatever our deal breakers are. She sounded like she didn't have none. Everything was a go.
Well, she said they was on Section 8. They was getting food stamps. He had a site tech job in the day, and he was robbing people at night.
Oh.
So,
but she had a job though.
She had a job.
Good
She worked for the police department.
Yeah.
I think she was a dispatcher.
Yes.
And they got a call, and when they went, it was him.
Yeah.
So he stayed in jail for about 3 days, and he said, "Lord, if you get me out of this, I'll serve you." So he, they told him to, wrap it up, and he went to his daddy and he said, I want to be a preacher
I want to
now.
be a pimp. I want to be a preacher.
Yeah, I want to be a preacher now. And so his father said, you and your wife come on Monday and Thursday and clean this church for a year, and then I'll let you become a preacher. And his father really said he couldn't be a preacher. His father said he had a learning disability. He was going to be a cheater. And if he couldn't play football, what else was he going to do? So his father really didn't back him, but he said he worked. He struggled with cleaning that church with the babies Monday through Thursday for a year, and then he became a pastor. So I think that they grew up together,
Pretty much.
And I ain't mad at her for making him be accountable for his goddamn actions. How many women got 5 kids and they not with the man? They don't have a husband.
True.
And two, when you talk about long suffering, life ain't easy, So your vows say through better or worse. So we just want the better. We saying we weak too. We can't handle some stuff. Now for me, because she did leave at one point and she came back. And then she wanted to leave, and she said she had a dream that God said he was going to be a preacher, and she couldn't leave. So when he got home, he thought she was gone because, let the games begin. And she was like, I ain't going. And he's like, shit, right? at the stage of being married, and she said she needed this money. She got 3 kids. He was paying the bills. He was paying, the rent needed to be paid. He needed to do that. I probably wouldn't have stayed with him. He would have had to got himself back together, got into therapy. I don't know where I'd have went. Well, I probably could have went somewhere because I had a job, whether it be a studio or something, a hole in the wall, and I would not. She said she knew to feed him, F him, and do something else, and anoint him in Crisco oil. I would have not fed him, slept with him in the same bed. I can't do that. I can't get in the bed with you knowing that you just was with some other woman. We would have been separated, and then he would have had to prove that his life has changed, and then I would have got back with him. But I'm glad that she didn't let him off the hook. Do you think that okay, so like she said, her parents kicked her out, but if her mother and father were divorced at 9, that meant her mother put her out. Do you think her mother was right or wrong for putting her out?
When she got pregnant?
Wrong.
I mean, she came from a background in Catholicism where you're not supposed to get pregnant before you get married. So
I think that's
the difference between her and other levels of Christianity. So I understand the rules, like I get it. Would I put my child out? No, but at the same time, if I knew my child was sexually active, I'm sorry, but she getting on birth control, and I'm not gonna let her ruin her life. We talked about this before, so I wouldn't have put her out. I just feel like because all she did was push her into the hands of him.
That was a time to redirect.
Yeah,
she didn't push him in the hands of him. She was already in the hands of him. So y'all want to play grown up? You gonna be grown up? You got to go. And she went and live with him and his family. And I personally think that's the right thing to do. Because you've already seen me go through that shit with your dad, and I'm trying to raise you in a nice household, and you gonna go up and get knocked up, and you think you just gonna be running around here? You're gonna go over there with that man. I love it. She had to go live with his parents, and they were preachers. He was a deacon, and she was the first lady. And she said when she got over there, because she was Catholic, they thought she was cursed, and their whole project was her.
Yeah.
So you want to be a grown up? We about to show you how to be a grown up. I'm quite sure her mother supported her in other ways, but it used to be a time when a man got a woman pregnant, he immediately married her. They made sure they got married. I don't care if it was a shotgun wedding. So that was 30-something years ago. I thought it was awesome.
I don't think I could do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have kicked my baby out. I'm just not.
I didn't kick her out. I put her in the hands where she should supposed to be at.
Well, you don't even know them people, though.
She didn't know him either.
Exactly.
So we gonna teach a lesson.
But as a mother, have I taught her about birth control? Have I told her these things? Maybe I failed in that area. Maybe I didn't. You know what I'm saying?
And I'm gonna tell you now, as a growing up as a Catholic, you don't do birth control.
That's right.
So you're not supposed to have premarital sex.
You're not supposed to have premarital sex, and you definitely don't do birth control at all. Like, it is shunned. You definitely don't do abortions. You get married.
Yeah.
And so, but I wouldn't have put her out. I just
couldn't do it.
No. But that's just me. Like I've always said, and I feel like this in this this climate, I'm like, there's nothing that my child could do to make me want to just kick her out. I feel like in our community, we tend to do that a lot, where we're like, oh, you 18, you 17, get the fuck out. Like, you out. I'm done. My work is done. And it's like, no, because I know what it's like when I hit 18. I know what it was like when I went out there and saw what the real world is.
I wasn't ready.
And so why would I push my child into that? No, if I could kind of, show her the ropes, to kind of be like, hey, when you see this little trap right here, go this way, why not? And I mean, mistakes are going to happen. We all make them. And so, no, I wouldn't kick her out. Would I definitely encourage them to kind of work out something to where they can get married? Of course. Would I prefer her to get married before a child? Of course. But if that didn't happen in that situation, no, I'm not kicking her out.
And how really did the deacon and the first lady or whatever their title was in the church really help? Because they had baby after baby after baby once she was over there.
Well,
so there was no restrictions.
They got married
put
2
in
years
place.
later.
But they had 2 babies
They had
before
2
they got
babies.
married.
So
okay, so that third baby was in wedlock. His father was a product of 10. His father had 10 children.
10 siblings. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Some within and some without.
Oh, that's right.
Different baby mamas.
Yep.
So his father asked him before he left this earth, please, you got your cheating gene, but please try to have all your children
with one
by
woman.
the same woman. So they did that.
Mm-hmm.
And they got over there and they got married 2 years later. I think it was great. I do.
I do appreciate them sharing their story and being so transparent because maybe it will help somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I think I like a preacher that can share with me something he's been delivered from or something like that. And that is definitely one of those times where he has shared while he was in the gutter.
Mm-hmm.
He came out and now he's this person living halfway decent.
Well, they say you don't have a testimony until you have
a test.
Been tested,
exactly.
Right? So
yeah.
And I think that even though it was people were traumatized or they said they was traumatized, and Lateris has done many programs like Nisha said. This one hit home for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And maybe instead of sharing the story because you're outraged and that's emotional abuse and that's physical abuse and that's blah blah blah, that you do know somebody that's going through that and maybe you share with them. And maybe if the man sees it, he might change his ways. Maybe if the woman sees it, she might change her ways because, like I said, there are people that's going through that right now. And the result is not a husband. The result is not great co-parenting. The result might have been abuse. The result might have been violence. The result might have been death. So I think it's a good teaching tool for people. I think it's a tool to let people on the outside kind of see the errors of their ways, how they might could relate to that and be like, damn, I do that and I didn't know it was that bad. They got in trouble for laughing and people were saying that he was insensitive and he thought it was funny, but he explained that this happened over 30 years ago. We were young. Young people do
stupid
dumb
stuff.
shit.
Yeah.
We are all women out here chasing after other women, busting windows out the car and fighting and unaliving pregnant women and because they baby daddy got them pregnant and stuff. And we act like, oh God, he was such a monster. He wasn't no monster. He told her what it was.
Well, I mean, so yeah, I can't say that he manipulated or anything like that because he told her what it was from day one. He still tells her what it is. And she willingly participates into it and say, okay, So I don't think that was the issue. I think the concerning thing was he kind of came across until because literally like 2 days later after that came out, Lateris had to go do a live.
Yeah, they was trying to cancel his show.
And have him and have them on there. And so I got to like watch. And in that one, it was kind of like night and day where he was like, well, no, I am remorseful. No, I did apologize to my wife. I do regret some of the things that I put her in. And she had to express and kind of give more detailed answers as to saying like, well, no, I'm not encouraging women to just tolerate that for the sake of saying that you're married or that you get grace. I'm not saying that. It's just that was my story. And that's what I wrote in our book, right? Because they have a book. And so the first seeing it on Lateris show before doing that live and whatnot, the way it came across was like every few sentences, this man was quoting scripture. So they would talk about the cheating, and then he'd be like, because Proverbs 45 said ... and then she'd be like, yeah, and then I would just make his clothes, and cook his food, yeah, because of Proverbs 31 woman, said ... So it was like it kind of came across like, nah, now you sounding like low key like that's manipulation. You using the Bible to be like, this is why you got to tolerate this, and no. Adultery is adultery.
It is.
It is. That is one of the exceptions, according to the Bible, where a divorce is excused, is adultery. So, Yeah, for better or for worse, absolutely. Sickness and health, absolutely. But do you have to tolerate a person that has the mental capacity of, I'm going to have as many women as I can so I can have fun with or without you in a marriage? No. No, you don't. No. And if we want to compare it to a single woman or a single mom, to me, I feel like that's apples and oranges because, again, you up under a covenant. You're supposed to be moving completely differently than somebody that's single. Period. You are.
The expectations is different.
Yes.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back because he did say I think people who listen and hear what they want to hear because he did say on the first initial podcast that he did apologize to her. He washed her feet. And when you wash a woman's feet, you're saying, I'm sorry, I apologize, forgive me. And like Nisha said, she watched another broadcast, but I watched another broadcast too. Now, the first time she sent me the link, I was at work. I heard, but I wasn't listening. So I was like, hell no. Oh no, she crazy. Well, I went back and listened. Then I thought it was a great story. Then I went back again and listened when they had, I think, a psychologist on. And they were going back and forth. And so basically what they were saying was that they've told this story 100 times. And they thought people knew their story. So they were just like us sitting on the couch talking.
Chatting.
It never dawned on her or him the effects that it might have.
Yeah.
He was remorseful. And she even got on the terror. She said, next time you need to say, this is going to be terrible, or, you know, if you're being abused, blah, blah, blah. But the terrorist was kind of like, that's not my job. And he said he didn't know they was going to come out their mouth like that. Because it was some parts that the terrorist was like, well, they're not going to like that. And she said that she has 2 daughters, and she does not tell them that they have to go through what she goes through. They have a church where they have divorce counselors on deck. They have marriage counselors on deck. And it was just, people were just crashing out because, like I said, I think it triggered a lot of people.
I think as you tell a story, as heavy as it can be, after you tell it so many times, when you're telling it, some people are looking at you like, damn, you crazy. This don't even bother you. This don't faze you. You don't, it doesn't have that heaviness as it does when it's initially coming out. So some people may think you're making light of it when you really are not. I get accused of that all the time because I laugh in the middle of me telling some of the horrific stuff that happened to me. But when you told it so many times, the power of it has been taken away. So you can throw it out there and hope that people get something from it.
That lets you know that a lot of people on the internet have not healed.
Exactly.
When you healed, you can come out and be transparent. So I was getting my ass whooped.
Thank you.
He was kicking my head and laughing and giggling. Because you've healed from it. It doesn't bother you anymore. It's in your past. So like I said, that lets you know there's a lot of traumatized people on the internet. And that was a trigger for a lot of people.
Definitely. Definitely. And I think that's why when you tell those type of stories, that there's a way in which they tell you to tell it. You tell it at the, like you said, you give a little bit of a disclaimer. This was something that happened to such and such and such. We are now in a better place, but I'm going to tell you the gory, ugly of it. And then you bring it down to where you sharing where we are today, where it's blossomed into something great.
And they partially did that because they said they were young. But see, like I say, there's a lot of people that play like, and nothing never happened to me. I've never been a fool for love. I've never chased somebody down. I've never dealt with a player. I've never, these hypocritical, self-righteous people that, oh my God, hey, you did the same thing. You're probably doing it right now. That was my thing about it.
That's true.
All right. Well, final thoughts.
My final thoughts would be to just stand firm on your deal breakers. You love a person. You end up with these kids. I think back in the day, a lot of women stayed in relationships because they did not want to be single parents and things of that nature, just like this lady did. And we do stay for many, many reasons. Theirs happened to work out for the better, which is good, I guess. I don't know how many you always have to think of in the interim, the parts in between where the kids may have been affected and may have, you know what I mean? It's so much to it. I think we are in a place now where women are a little bit stronger. we stand firm in how we feel about certain things, not everything, but certain things. And I just encourage people to um love yourself and know when things are going the wrong way. There's a level of tolerance that we allow for some of the wrong reasons. Um, it's good to love a person, but it has to be healthy love. This right here, they beat the odds because she went through a whole lot of shit, a whole lot. Um, and just know that your situation may not turn out like this, and know when it's time to exit.
As far as the children are concerned, all 5 of the children work for them. They don't encourage their children to be like them. Even in their counseling sessions, they say, he says sometimes, why can't you be like Kelley? And they be like, nah, I'm not like Kelley. And he says they try to keep the marriages together, but sometimes he has to say, y'all need to get a divorce.
Yeah.
You know, she laid with him. She had children with him. She prayed for him and she stayed with him. Great love story. And if you listened well, this happened the first 5 years of their relationship.
30-year relationship.
And they've been together for 32 years. Betty Wright say, no pain, no gain. You got to be ordered to go through something to have something. And life is not easy. Relationships are not easy. I am grateful that I'm glad that they made it through. Like Adrian said, everybody doesn't make it through. I believe that we as women have to love ourselves more, because he told her, she was worthless. She had no value. Have some deal breakers. I think she had more deal makers than she had deal breakers. And that's why she said she had grace. She allowed him to grow. And I think she's seen the fruits of her, what she was trying to do. She said God came to her. God comes to different people in different ways. And everything that the Spirit told her came to fruition. Like Adrian said, it's not going to happen for everybody. I think you have to be very complimentary when you get married, because it is supposed to be forever. Be smart. That's my final thought.
Okay. I will say, for women, there's nothing wrong with having healthy boundaries. And if you don't have any, learn to create healthy boundaries for yourself. When a man that you are interested in tells you he already knows up front you have no value or no worth, that's not an open invitation to be like, challenge accepted. Understand that he's already telling you how things are going to go. And if that's something you want to sign up for, go for it. For me, I would hope that you are more in a healthier headspace to where you understand that that's not acceptable at all. You need to love yourself more. You need to understand your worth. You need to create healthy boundaries. You need to understand that the way you treat yourself is the way other people can treat you too. So if you treat yourself like shit, other people probably will treat you like shit. But if you treat yourself the way God created you to be, there is no way that you would tolerate someone else treating you like garbage. I will give them kudos for figuring it out and being able to manage to stay together after all of that, because studies show that like the first 7 years of marriage is kind of like your most difficult times, because you are going through a change of going from one person to 2 people coming together as one, 2 different personalities, 2 different mindsets, 2 different backgrounds coming together to try to figure it out. However, I think that you really should aim for more compatibility as opposed to just judging a person based off of physical looks. I'm the type of person that's like not in, you tell me your preference and it's the opposite of me, I'm not wasting my or your time. That's just me. But I know some people have been coached into saying, well, that means nothing. Give him a chance. He could change. She could change her mind. You could grow into liking this person. And that's cool too. For some people, it might work. But others, a lot of times, stats have shown and history has shown that it doesn't. Um, Cheating happens, infidelity happens. If that's something that you feel like you built to withstand, good for you. But if you know that that's something you are not built to withstand, don't do it. Do not waste your time. Do not waste your precious body. I feel like, and I'm basing this on all the married people in my life that I know, from my parents all the way down, that when you say I do and get married, there is this like covenant that you have. And when you break that covenant by allowing someone else to enter into it, you're now putting that other person at risk of whatever is to come. As they mentioned in that episode, there were women that were showing up to the house because they were not aware of his wife's position, because that man didn't tell her. So he wasn't even covering his wife. So if you want to leave, leave. If you want to stay, stay. I always say I love to hear married people speak their truth, the good, the bad, the ugly, how you either made it work or you didn't, the lessons you learned from it, and what you can tell someone that's on the single end, what they might encounter or what to look out for. I think it's a good thing. Was I triggered? Because, Mona's right. A lot of people was triggered. I absolutely was. I was triggered when I first saw that episode because I was like, it's one thing to hear married couples speak on their experience. It's another thing when you're hearing it from pastors. That's that. And for me, I know people say, not that I idolize pastors, because I don't, but I put them at a higher level than I do a regular schmegler married couple. I hate to say it, I do. And so when you hear them kind of come across like, yeah, I was doing this and this and this and this, I still kind of have my, I just was like,
But remember, he wasn't a pastor when all that was going on.
I understand.
I'm just trying to interject.
Yeah.
And I just want to say one more thing before you finish.
Remember what? Too. No, because I want to finish. And then you can say it right after I finish.
Okay, I just want to say one more thing.
Thank you. So my thoughts is, I forgot what go for it, Mona. It's all you.
I just want to say, she was dumb because when they asked her what she liked about him, she said she liked his name. So she was young and dumb.
And we all silly at that age.
And we all silly, so.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. It came back. Mothers. And I'm saying mothers. I know men play a role in parenthood. Fathers do too. So you could say both, but I'm starting with mothers because we're supposed to be the first teachers. Pour into your children, especially your daughters. Pour into them, because if they don't know their value and their worth, if they don't understand the importance of treating their body better than anybody else that they give their body to, we are going to continue to see what we see in today's time when people bash single mothers because they don't understand that their body is their temple. Their body is worthy. You are worthy of love and protection. You are worthy of a covenant. Pour that into your daughters and your sons too. Like, pour into them that it's important to treat their body better than anybody else. Because if they don't, they will willingly just give it up to anybody that just says, you're cute. You're cute. I like you. You're due for today. You do. Like, pour into them, So
I sat in on a youth group at a church one time, and one of the ways the lady described virginity, she was like, it's much like if you have a vehicle. And as soon as you drive it off the lot, it loses value. Mm-hmm. And she was basically telling these young ladies that you're everything right now. Mm-hmm. Hold on to that until you can give it to somebody who's worthy of it. Mm-hmm. And we have to remember, we teach people how to treat us. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the thing that we forget a lot of times. The more you allow, the more you are allowing a person to do these things.
Yes.
You don't set, like you said, no boundaries. They just gonna do whatever the hell they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And like at 17, and we don't know. I was stupid too at that age.
Mm-hmm.
Had a baby, and didn't know, what to do. I had felt like I had just shamed my whole family, my mama, my daddy. So you just kind of just like, oh, okay, I'm gonna just go with whatever. We have to remember that, and like you said, pour into your girls.
Yeah.
And we have to remember too that church people, kids, it's the worst type of kids.
Thank you.
And I hear you when you say pour into your children, but sometime at the end of the day, the kids gonna do what the hell they want to do. They gonna be grown. They gonna sneak out the window. They gonna have unprotected sex. My grandfather on my mother's side said, "You sitting on a gold mine." Said they gonna come for you. He said, but that right there, that's worth gold, and everybody can't afford gold.
That's right.
If you feel horny, and I was young, and I was like, what the hell? He said, go in there in that douche bag. Use that douche bag. And I don't know if it that old school douche bag.
That used to hang
pink,
on the
that hang over the shower, and they had this long like water hose, and then they had a
for
little
years.
nozzle
I didn't know what
bottom.
the heck it was.
Yeah, I didn't know what it either, but I know I wasn't putting that thing on. And he said, if you don't want to put that up, you then don't let nobody go up in you. So at the end of the day, you can teach your children all types of things, but they got their own minds.
They're influenced.
I would say do that, because when they do fall, you covered that. Had you listened to your mama, had you listened to your daddy, you wouldn't be in these positions. But they was both wild and free and freaky, and she didn't share how many STDs she possibly had from all them different heifers. So like I say, remember, if you do go back and listen, that happened before they became preachers. And sometimes it don't take you overnight to be a preacher. And I think that's where the confusion came from. Like Nisha said, when she first heard it, she does hold preachers to a higher standard. God holds preachers to a higher standard. And that's why I had to go back and listen to it. And the clarification, they were still in the world. So yeah.
Yeah. All right, y'all. This is VGP. If you please like, share, subscribe to our channel. If you enjoyed this conversation, let us know in the comment section. If you feel like we're missing out on something, or you want us to discuss a certain topic, hit us up. We respond and let us know. So VGP, we out. Bye.